I've been keeping this video diary or vlog. I've been keeping this form of reflection for about 12 years, 12 or 13 years I've been doing this. And one of the main reasons that I started doing this was just because I wanted to have a platform to work through things in my mind, because I realised that coaching was so layered. And I've said it to a few people before that at around the time when I started doing Immersed, I was working for the County Coaching Association, and the coaches that I worked with and our boss were just fantastic. Really healthy attitude to improvement. As a collective, we were all pretty much the same. Not the same in our styles of coaching, but the same in our drive. And I think that the coaches were very open-minded to the discussions. Do you know what I mean? You never felt as if you were being judged, even though it's not like we're not competitive. So it was wonderful to have a group of people who pushed me, and who, after training sessions, we just stand around for about 45 minutes off our own volition. It's not like we were told to do it. We would just stand around and speak about our sessions. No judgment. No one thinks that they're better than the other person. It was a wonderful environment to work in. I really loved working for the association. I really loved it. They were such good people and had good standards as well, and it was consistent. I think when you go and work in different places, that's the best time for you to reflect and realise what the differences might have been and reasons why. So right now, obviously there are always things to think about in terms of where you are with your own coaching development and with your own ambitions. Something that I've found is just the mentality is so important to the environment. The learning mentality that I've found is just the mentality is so important to the environment. The learning mentality, the acceptance of pressure, the type of pressure, the timing of it, what does pressure look like, what does it feel like, and who's it put upon. So coping or having an awareness that you need to cope with pressure as a young player, and as parents of young players, the awareness that you need to cope with pressure, and this is what pressure looks like. This is what to expect from your year as a family. This is what to expect from your club. I think that's essential to getting things done and moving things on and getting into the elements which are involved in trying to develop players, and develop ourselves as coaches and practitioners. So what I've always found is that you don't necessarily have to have the most technically proficient players. They don't have to be academy level players, but they do need to have academy level mentality. So obviously we're speaking about youth players, senior players. That's obviously different because it's all performance based, results based. But working with young players and you're looking at development doesn't mean losing lots of games all the time and saying it's okay, it's development, but having players or families or loved ones who struggle with the pressure, that is a massive challenge. I think as a coach, that's a massive challenge, and that might have been something that in my previous environment years ago I worked there, it might have been something which was a talking point for the group. But what I noticed actually is that we always spoke about what we were doing. You know, we always spoke about the session we just delivered and the problems within the session and how we should have maybe looked to solve it. Those were the drivers for our debrief and our reflection as a group after our sessions. We always spoke about ourselves and how we were working with our players. We never spoke about like issues with things which weren't connected to the delivery, like directly connected. So I think that's a reflection of the environment, or that environment maybe being more purposeful, in that the pressure which is connected to being under the microscope as a footballer, as a player, the pressures connected to it were expectant pressures. Like, we know this is the pressure that's going to occur. So I think it's really important to sort of examine your environment, because pressure is part of, you know, when you're I think when you're trying to work towards a game or a performance, there's got to be pressure. And people have to be able to cope with pressure. And for me personally, I'm not a straight line coach. I've used that phrase a few times, I like it. But I'm not a straight line coach. So if you come to watch a session of mine and you think, what's she doing? It's not your business yet. There's usually a plan behind it, and it's connected with things which relate to your 4 or 5 boxes of development as a player. And it's not just all technical. So some players think, you know, I do all these private sessions, I'm really good. That's just not the complete player. So I'm not a straight line coach in the sense that when I'm working with a player or working with players, there are other components to our environment. And one of the main components is a player or whoever they get into the car with on their way home and have that 30-minute or 20-minute chat. Within that environment, you have to be able to cope with pressure. And pressure isn't just in-game pressure. Pressure might be the conversations that you do or do not have with your teammates. It might be that you don't say hello to anybody that you walk past, you don't shake the coach's hand, you never apologise, you don't congratulate anyone, you're solipsistical, that you only think of you. That might be pressure. It might be the pressures before you're on the ball. So do you understand your position and how it relates to on the ball performances of your teammates? What are you like? Who are you? That's the pressure that I think needs to be an educational factor for the environment that you work in. Everybody needs to understand and expect the pressure, and in understanding the pressure, a lot of it is related to, well, do you understand that this sport is reliant upon so many variables? It's not just about you, but it can be just about you. It's one of those things that for me, I only think of it lots and lots and lots because I've got this this platform of using the video blogs or the vlogs as part of my reflection process. And I've always had a reflection process. So years ago, it was me and my fellow coaches. We delivered our sessions at the end. Instead of saying goodbye, high-fiving, we would stand around for 5 minutes and have a chat. We weren't having a chat to complain about the players. We were having a chat to try to figure out our sessions, whether it was appropriate, what were the problems, how can we look to solve them next time. And we all had things that we were trying to work through. So having some sort of reflection is to help me as a coach, and in my environment I always expect players to be able to cope. mentally, emotionally. Nothing to do with what you like on the ball, because there are so many variables which are related to your performance as a player. It's not always going to be who can make the best save, who can do the most juggles and tricks. Sometimes it's just, how are you with your coping? Can you cope? Because I need to give you some tactical information now, but if you're stressed, or if you're angry, or if you're overconfident, then it's difficult to work with you. So as coaches, the environment that I found the most enjoyable was a reflective one, and that's how I know that my coaching environment has always sort of had a driver of mental strength. Can you cope? It's always driven my environment. Can you cope? Are you a reflective person, and can you cope in this environment? It's not too much pressure, it's the right amount of pressure for the sport and for the outcomes that we're looking for with the detail. Very interesting for me anyway, but I appreciate that some people would be like, well, no, but we're always trying to look for ways to improve, and what turns you on to a player, what turns you off. And mental strength for me is something that turns me on to a player, and mental fragility or overconfidence or not recognising the process and the importance of the process, that turns me right off, and it turns me off of environments as well. So I love a learning environment, I love a reflective environment. So yeah, interesting stuff. How are you yawning? This is not boring. This is not, hey, wake up. What is...
1, 2, 3, 4